welcome to episode 16 of the Arc-Aholics. The Arc-Aholics is a collection of passionate gamers getting together to discuss Embark Studios' game, Arc Raiders, as well as any other extraction shooter related topics. All content creator guests who appear on here will have their platforms linked in the description below, and I highly encourage you checking them out. Before we get started, I need to say thank you to my channel supporters. These absolute legends help make this kind of content possible, and a special shout out goes to my Florida Man Alligator tiered supporters, the Tranimal and Spectre. All of your support is truly appreciated. With the release of Arc Raiders behind us, several patches, and new content being dropped, we have a lot to talk about, and so let's get to it. Welcome to episode 16 of the Arc-Aholics. Today we got an excellent panel here. We got Jake from JaketheAlright YouTube channel. Jake, say hello again.
Hello. Hope everyone's doing well.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming back again. And returning guests as well, we have Fringe from the Fringe Patriot YouTube channel. Please say hello.
As always, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to start talking about some Arc Raiders.
Fantastic, man. We're going to get this rolling. All right, so this week is a pretty straightforward episode. The game is launched. It's been out for some time now, and we've got a lot to talk about. We kind of have a little bit of a trajectory starting in terms of Embark's content and balancing and patches and kind of like that cadence that they've been able to put out. And so we have a lot to talk about here. So right off the top, some of the bigger patches that we were starting off with, not necessarily, Stella Montis, not quite yet. We'll get to that later. But the rebalancing of terms of queues. So people were saying, hey, we want to duo queues. We got that. We got a price reduction in a lot of the skins in the market and whatnot. We got that. There was the very broken security locker nerf that was kind of aligned a little bit and changed up a little bit. And some clarification in terms of Raider decks, in terms of what we can expect in the future from free decks versus premium decks. So there's a lot to talk about here. So whichever one you want to jump into first, let's go with JaketheAlright. What stands out to you? What's kind of really just kind of got you perking up a little bit?
Well, I made the mistake of, which I feel like I've been told is a new mistake now, going full mobility. I'm thinking, it's more slow, grounded game. So I stacked heavy into mobility, thinking I'm going to bounce around here. I'm going to be flying, zipping around, rolling like crazy. And realized pretty deep into it, maybe like 25 or 26 points or something, that the weapons locker going down the right side path was the way to go in terms of being able to get weapons and currency. So I shifted over and started dumping all my points in there, and then the nerf got there. I'm now 1 point. I think I'm 35 points in there, so I'm 1 point away from getting it. So
nice.
Wasn't able to take advantage of that, but I did notice playing quite a bit of duos with a handful of people, that I've been getting more into lobbies with exclusively duos, and that does feel a little bit better. Although I kind of like the chaos of, feeling like a two-man group, kind of surrounded at all times by bigger teams, which was fun. But I think, honestly, even in solos, I probably encounter the largest groups of people. I'll encounter like teams of 4 or 5 pretty regularly in solos. So, but it's all been pretty solid changes, I think, in terms of the updates so far.
For sure. I felt like the sweeping changes that we got in that particular patch are all low-hanging fruit. These are all things that the general community at large all agree on. They're all just, yep, makes sense, cool. There's nothing really objectionable about it, nothing, controversial about any of these changes. And, I feel like that was a really good, victory to have just very early on, set the tone. Okay, we're listening, we're taking advantage of that. Now, real quick, Fringe, the interesting thing about those that duo queue, they did note the fact that they were silently testing it before they released it officially. I thought that was interesting, in a lot of implications they can do that stuff for the future in terms of things they're thinking about. What do you make of that? Like, what's something that you're kind of seeing in the future them kind of doing that with?
Oh man, honestly, I didn't even know that they were silently testing that. That's pretty interesting to hear. I'm a lot kind of on the realm of hoping that maybe something gets silently tested with the mid-raid spawning system, whether that be perhaps only allowing free kits to spawn in mid-raid, because nothing's more irritating than spawning in mid-raid on a kit that I just fully loaded out to go loot. We're 18 minutes left on this thing. Everywhere's looted. God knows where anybody's at currently, or maybe even adjusting spawn points inside a solo. Some silent testing when it comes to balancing I like, and I'm even more excited that they're pumping these balance changes out on a pretty quick basis, because I'm like Jake with the security lockers. I went full mobility, so I didn't get to take advantage of the overpowered lockers. However, we just now opened it, so I can kind of understand what people are saying with like it got super nerfed, but it was incredibly overpowered. Either way, I'm excited to see them pumping out updates on a consistent basis.
Sure. Actually, there was a recent video that I saw where a gentleman went, and I apologize for not remembering the content creator's name. If I find out by the time we posted it, I'll be glad to link it. He went out and did 50 security locker openings after the nerf, and he was like, "No, it's not that bad actually." It came down to, there's obviously some meme openings. I know Grubs, my consistent duo. There was like the first few ones he got out, he got like Kettle 2s in there, and so it's just kind of just this meme level of like just destructive nerfing that it felt like. But I don't know. I think it's still a very valuable node to go after. The tree is still very strong overall. And if anything, a lot of things, the mobility still feels really weak. And I think a lot of times people went into it. Now we got a lot more information, and I think one of the next big patches that I think Embark could really do in terms of like low-hanging fruit, easy to have everybody agree on, is actually just spell out what the actual nodes do, right? Because a lot of times you don't even know what they are. Like, for example, it could be like, hey, you get no stamina cost on your roll when X happens, but that doesn't apply to sprint rolls, does it? Right? And so, but most people intuitively think, well, a roll is a roll, right? And so I feel like clarifying a lot of these things in terms of like percentage points and just like, hey, this is what happens. Or at the very least, a small little mini video of the person doing something of that pertains to that. I think some clarity at the very least needs to be shined on the skill tree, because a lot of people I've run into a couple of people who are new and they're like, oh, I can't wait to get this particular node. I'm like, yeah, brother, don't do that one. Just it doesn't do anything. I had to kind of tell him how it works. This is the one where it brings your stamina back as if you're standing still when you're walking, when no one really walks. So it's kind of like,
oh my gosh, I have that one.
Yeah,
I
so
went
do I.
full mobility, and you're right, it's a bit weak. I have that one, and I tell you, even the stamina that you do get when you are walking, it is so minimal. You
Right.
hardly notice. It's
Right. And so the one benefit of someone pointed out is that when you're using the microelectric cloak, you're walking, so it counts for that, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
So
I was gonna say, I didn't even realize there was a walk button. So I was the one who
Right.
got the skill point, was like, oh, this is going to help me.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
didn't even realize it wasn't walking.
And so I feel like that's probably the next step we're gonna see. We're gonna see some clarification on the skill tree as well as some rebalancing, honestly. But with that one in mind, I also saw the Raider decks they clarified. They wanted to steer away from the pay to win conversation, which I always found kind of interesting. But I guess I'm the oddity in that regard. They did state that the premium Raider decks are not going to have items in it. They're going to have purely cosmetics. Whereas right now we've seen the current player deck that I'm sure we've all completed at this point has a variety of items as well as skins. Whereas the premium ones will literally just only have skins, right? What are your thoughts about that, Jake?
I think that's perfect because the game is $40. I was trying to remember exactly how they do it in the finals, and I kind of want to say even with the free, you can get, it's kind of like Fortnite style almost, where like just you'll get some currency, a handful of skins, and then you pay to unlock the total package, which has a more comprehensive number of items. But obviously, much different kind of experience there because you're not actually taking any like new kit into the game, or their keys that can get lost and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed going through the deck, and I also felt that the pace at which you progress through it felt right for the amount of time. Like, because I do like the idea of not feeling too pressured in terms of trying to rush through everything and not have enough time. And I've put probably 70 to 80 hours in, and just finished it maybe 10 or so hours ago. Not like pressing super hard to get all my feats done every day or anything. And I feel like that's a pretty good pace. And it also gives you time to focus on a lot of the other stuff that you have going on, because there is, between the trials and the expedition, there are like, make number grow up
Sure.
stuff across the whole game, which is satisfying as well.
For
But I
sure.
think that's a good call. I think that's a good call to separate it like that.
Right. And with the recent update, Fringe, we also got a whole other event, kind of like battle pass ish type thing, where it was based off the event with merits and things like that. So we had that plus the decks, and it gave us kind of a example of like two different ways of them going about it. I felt like some people would say that they prefer just a straight on, one level to the next as opposed to the Raider deck the way they have it, because there's not really a choice. It's a fake choice because you have to fill it all in anyways. And so they would just prefer it just be straight up. And what about you, Fringe? What do your makes on that? You for implications for future events as well?
Realistically, I'm 6 to 1, half a dozen to another, and I tend to agree with Jake again. I didn't pay attention to what feats I was doing at all, and I pretty steadily gained that currency, that cred, whatever it is, in
Mhm.
order to unlock this deck. We finished that out pretty quickly. When it comes to cosmetics, though, I really, really don't care about cosmetics. Actually, Arc Raiders is the first time in a long time that I've been excited to see a cosmetic, and I wish I timestamped this during the live stream when it happened. But when I noticed that they had the receding hairline cosmetic coming out of the deck, I was genuinely excited and still am genuinely excited. I bet when I make my character, if you go back to when I make my character, I bet I say something like they need to have the balding monk hairline. They got to have something, bro. I don't know what it is about them, but I love it. They seem to be just handing out currency too.
Yeah.
Like currently, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sitting at 1,500 in completing both of these events. I'll just continuously feed through these decks, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think it's for a game that's premium, and then also has this microtransaction shop behind it. It seems rather generous with the amount of in-game currency that they're giving out, and also the amount of free cosmetics that are being given out. And so I think a lot of times when people are complaining about the price of certain cosmetics, I kind of go a little deaf to it. I understand that certain price lines were a little high, uh, but it's one of those things where you're getting so much for free that it makes the complaint feel hollow, right? And I know I'm probably just maybe I'm not maybe I'm a little tone deaf when it comes to that, but that's certainly how I felt, right? But that's just me. Jake, you have any counter push to that?
I mean, I think the whole cosmetics for stuff that you're only seeing in a menu in terms of the scrappy stuff is obviously
Oh yeah,
a little silly. And
horse
I do
armor.
think yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, there you go. I do think pulling back on the prices was the right call, but I don't know if that was necessarily like them trying to do a show of goodwill as much as it was, listen, we sold so much that, it's not really super relevant. But I do think
Mhm.
they're probably a little bit on the higher end. I got the deluxe edition or whatever that
Mhm.
came with like 2,000 coins because I knew, okay, there's going to be
Same.
some sort of cool skin. Why not? We're here. And I was a little bit disappointed with the skins that they had initially. I did just get the kind of Boba Fett armor dude,
Yeah, I
and
was
that
holding
looks
out for that one.
incredible. Yeah, right. I kind of feel like as obviously the seasons go on, they introduce more stuff. I'm going to lean more in towards the kind of futuristic armor
Right.
stuff and they showed quite a bit of that. I feel like throughout the tech tests and the
Mm.
media stuff that they had put out prior to. So I'm excited to like get into that stuff, and especially if it even if it isn't something where every season there's a skin that I'm super into, if it's a thing where I'm slowly racking up these coins just by completing the decks already,
Mhm.
I think it's going to be probably not a huge issue, the price point that they have.
And I think the great thing as well, I'm super happy that I don't have to buy bundles in order to get specific items.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of mix and match your character to a degree. And we're not talking about finals level type stuff, but like to a
Hmm.
degree, I can, mix and match certain aspects of it. And I think the skin you're talking about, I think it's the volcano or torpedo. We all know which
Yeah.
one we're talking about at this point. I like that skin the best so far, not because it's aesthetically pleasing to me, it is, but it's also I feel like all of the options are appealing. There's a way you can
Hmm.
change, you can shift the look pretty dramatically. Whereas some things are like, okay, do I have a pouch or do I not have a pouch? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not really that big of a thing to me. Whereas this this particular skin, you have 3 different options for just your face, and it can change dramatically how your character appears. And so I can appreciate more skins like that, you know. So
Oh wait, I do
go
have
ahead.
to say the one cosmetic thing that is like blowing my mind. Why is it okay? So we have Haining stuff from our bag, right? So right now I got the colas or the brewskis or whatever Haining classic.
Oh,
Why
Spoos.
is the other Haining thing on top of the? Do you get what I'm saying? So like if you want to Hain a trinket, it's
Oh,
right in front of it. Why can we not Hain it somewhere else? Why do I got
okay.
to cover up my?
Right. I barely notice the stuff
I gotta hang
anyways.
that up there.
To be perfectly honest, I barely touch that stuff anyways, because it's just like I want the backpack to look a certain way. I want the thing below it to look a certain way. Just thematic. I try to keep it thematic to my whole look. But I understand they probably need
The
to,
trinket enjoyers. We
yeah,
need to move it up. We need to
right,
move it up.
you know, or maybe swap out the trinket for like the main hanging thing and make it bigger.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, I want
I
like
want
a,
to
I want
show
like a
off my
gold, I want like a
golden
gold
cock or
clock
whatever.
just hanging. You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right. All right. All right. So, Fringe, 700 concurrent players, man. What do you make of that? 700,000 concurrent players.
7,000. Yes. That's actually crazy. That's actually crazy. I was ranting about this on my Discord a little bit. If we hit 700,000 concurrent players, just correct me if my mindset's wrong on this. If we hit 700,000 concurrent players and we hit a peak concurrent on the Steam of what was it,
450, something
460?
like that.
Okay, if we're even generous and we knock that down to 400, let's say, at the time that this 700,000 peak happened, that leaves 300,000 on console or other
Mm-hmm.
platforms. Am I crazy in thinking that? I'm not trying to start a console war here or nothing, but
No.
these trends here to me is interesting with these games. It seems that the PC market is becoming massive, like realistically starting to overshadow what is the console market.
Well, particularly for extraction shooters, because I think there's always people, just kind of with their ear to the ground when it comes to more niche genres. So it doesn't surprise me. It did surprise me a little bit. I thought the number would be a lot higher, given how high Steam numbers were. I think just kind of just projected from that point. Okay, well, consoles typically do more numbers, but I guess maybe not in this genre, at least not yet, right? I'm still running into people who've literally just bought the game in my lobbies. So, who knows in terms of when this game? Because you asked me the other time, when do we think the game is going to start leveling out in terms of its game? I'm not sure we're going to see that this year, to be honest, because it didn't go up with a bang. Right, this is a bang. No, that's not taking anything, but it didn't go up like several million or something like that, where it can just drop where it can just drop significantly. Where it's like kind of just steady, been going. It's been steady going.
It's holding its ground a lot more than you realistically see a lot of games hold their ground nowadays. I mean, we're weeks into the launch of this thing, and the numbers on a daily basis for the 24-hour peak are still holding very steady. It's actually crazy to watch. So I agree with you. I think it's going to be a bit longer than I was even predicting.
Right. And I think the typical honeymoon period these days is like about 3-4 weeks. That's how what we saw from Battlefield 6 as
Yeah,
well. Doesn't look like Call of Duty's
less
going to
than
get that
like
luxury,
2
to be
weeks.
honest. But and it's just one of those things where I feel vindicated. I think a lot of us here probably feel vindicated. We probably have the similar takes with people were wondering about an October release, being smashed between Battlefield 6 and Call of Duty and this, that, and the other. And I kept telling, Titanfall 2 kept coming up, and it's just one of those things where like people just didn't understand these are not the same audiences. These are not, right? And this is proof that it's not the same
Just
audience.
getting ready to say, Battlefield 6 was hardly on my radar. The only reason it was on my radar was because they were coming out with a battle royale, which didn't turn out so great. And then Black Ops 7, that wasn't on my radar at all either. So yeah,
That's a
completely different audiences.
completely different audience, and the result has been predicted for quite some time. It's just, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm glad we have our game to play right now, and we have Arc Raiders, and we don't need to worry about any of that. And so, because Embark's doing it right and doing it good, it's just happy to see that they're rewarded by with their good work, and hopefully we continue to see that, because if their cadence of content so far is anything to be measured by, I can see this number being exceeded, not going down. I can see it keep climbing at some point, right? And speaking of which, Stella Montis, right? New map. It came on with an event. For those of you who weren't aware of that, we had to donate a bunch of materials, and we started doing it so fast that the devs had to reset it and like increase the amount that we had to donate. Now, I want to get you guys' thoughts on that before I kind of give mine on that one. Jake, the introduction of Stella Montis, the events, maybe some general ideas of the map or something like that. But let's just kind of go on with the introduction of that map. How'd you feel about it?
I think I I don't. Was there any like maybe I missed it and they had talked about exactly how it was going to work beforehand,
Mhm.
or maybe they didn't and I didn't miss anything. So I kind of went in completely blind.
Mhm.
The only thing that I didn't like was the speed. I do think that they were right for pulling it back and resetting it a little
Yeah.
bit because I think I would have liked seeing that play out over like 4 to 5 days,
Yeah.
and I think that's
Same.
another avenue where you could have seen people like gather together in groups. Oh, we're getting plastic parts. We're doing our part. We're contributing. I think if
Right.
you gave that more space to breathe, it probably would have made more stories and more fun times for people. But with all that being said, I'm incredibly glad that Stella Montis in here. And in terms of PvP maps, that's kind of where I've been focusing on PvP, having this kind of tighter indoor area. So I've really enjoyed it. But yeah, I do wish that they had dragged it out a little bit farther. But clearly, this is their first iteration of doing that. They obviously didn't expect it to go as fast as it did the first time. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they'll probably dial that in and make it a more, I don't know, exhaustive or kind of drawn out experience for the next one.
Sure. Yeah. Fringe, what about you?
I actually have the complete opposite take here. I think they should have let the community hammer it out in what would have been like 4 hours or something like that. It should have been this big thing where the community was like, we came together and we knocked out this event in 4 hours. The devs didn't even see it coming. And then Stella Montis was unlocked because realistically, all you were turning in was plastic parts. It was 5 at a time. It
Mm,
was like, you want to do that for 4 or 5 days. Let's just get the new map out.
right.
But I agree with Jake. Moving on into the future, then, if they should have just let this one get hammered out by the community, and then moving on into the future, try to make it a little bit more difficult, perhaps, so it was
Mhm.
a bit more of a community effort. When they extended it here, it kind of felt like a kick to the shins, you know what I'm saying? But realistically, even after the extension, it didn't take that long. And the thing is, like they explained it like the merits in the second phase were going to be like crucial, and that's why they wanted people to get in and be able to get the 900 merits, right?
Mhm.
But the merits just were a part of another track. So I mean,
Right.
they could have just let the community hammer through. Nobody would have missed out. They would have been in Stella Montis earning merits. They would have just missed out on a little 900 boost.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel. But either way, it all turned out great. I love Stella Montis. It's my warm up map. The spawns are terrible.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to bring
Well,
anything of a mega value in there, but when we first boot up the live streams and we're getting the blood flowing, we'll roll a few free loadouts into Stella Montis and just go crazy.
right. So, quick question on you for the follow up on that is the issue you have primarily because it was just so flat in terms of the materials you can turn in, or would it have spiced something up in terms of like after you delivered a certain amount of value of gray materials, it would then force you to go, cool, if you want to keep donating, you have to keep donating bigger materials, and then does the same, kind of like Expedition, but only like ever so it escalating, and giving the community something to continuously go off, as opposed to like everyone collecting plastic parts. You'd be like, cool, I've already collected all my plastic parts. Now I'm all the way to the point where I need to get Leaper, cores and stuff like that. So it's, um, so I feel like would that have made that experience a little better?
I mean, yeah, a stepping process like that would have definitely made it a little bit more interesting, less redundant. Also, maybe even like some rewards tied to like each tier that you worked into. And that's kind of like, I think what Jake was trying to get at. Hopefully, in the future, it's a bit more fleshed out and we see things like that take place because that
Mm-hmm.
the PvE community inside of this game is strong. And like I said in the previous podcast, I don't know if I said it live or after, but the PvE players could genuinely take over this game, especially in solo lobbies, and they are. Where I'm running into 5+ people running around on Stella Montis, all in voice chat, smacking each other's butts, and
Yeah.
then the eldest comes in, shoots one of the 5, and just absolutely loses his life. It's elder abuse over here. You know what I mean?
Right. But yeah, I think it's one of those interesting things where I've noticed even after a few days of Stella Montis being out, yeah, I can go into a solo lobby and be mostly friendly in solo lobbies as well, even on Stella Montis. Though my take on Stella Montis is, I don't know, I feel like it's a great initial start. I think the spawns there are it's too populated, to be perfectly honest. I think it turns into a death match if it's been played properly. Yes, I did put a value judgment on that. And so it's one of those things where, and it also becomes easy to murder people. So for those of you who are more PvE, more friendly oriented, right? It's much easier just to go 1v1, rat somebody out, and then no one's gonna know it was you, right? In a map like that. So it's not necessarily good for that either. And so if there were maybe a little bit less people, and also the loot itself, I'm finding issues with, because as of right now, and this is kind of ties into maybe to another topic as well. As of right now, we've kind of seen a meta develop in terms of the weapons. Purple weapons, by and large, with the exception of maybe the volcano, are just less desirable than their blue counterparts, because they just simply don't perform for the cost that they do. And so I find it when I'm going to Stella Montis and I'm gathering materials that are used exclusively to build said purple weapons, I'm like, I don't have value for them because I don't want to build the purple weapons. And so it comes down. It's an interesting map. Like, in terms of, I can see where they were going with it. I just feel there's some holes that they can plug that can make the experience a little bit better. One of which is the shredder. I think it's a great concept. I think it's a good step forward. I think it also shines a light where the Arc enemies are severely lacking in terms of a medium-sized indoor capable bot. Right? Since that's basically what it is, it kind of shows, it stands out so much that it's basically the only one. And so I feel like maybe we can have some more, particularly ones that can open doors, because that's all you can do. Just close the door and be like, all right, cool, boom, and get rid of it. So after the initial reaction of me seeing the shredder for the first time, and we kind of figured it out how to beat it at that point. Like, all right, cool, this is easy enough. Like any other threat, it becomes boring, or not necessarily boring, but like easy, repetitive, redundant. Like, just it becomes part of the noise again, right? It's no longer new. But what about you, Jake? Your experience with the shredder, how long did it take for you to go from like, oh my god, what the heck is this thing, to like, all right, it's part of the noise now?
I think in terms of fighting it, it's in a good spot. In avoiding it, though, it's pretty easy to avoid it unless it starts doing, when it goes sideways, it starts getting a little rascally and kind of go where it wants to. I kind of want to hear your opinion, though, because I agree with what you're talking about in terms of there are a lot of people on the map. Do you think it would fix it if they just maybe drop one or two people? But the main thing, I think, just more Arc. What if Stella Montis just had like 25-40% more Arc? Like, I kind of feel like if a shredder, because let's say, I'm trying to think, like medical is where I encounter the most shredders for some reason. Maybe that's not, but anecdotally, I kind of feel like you kill the two, one below, one up top, and I feel like I'm good to loot for the rest of the match. What if they were just deploying those way more? Because I kind of feel like the PvP encounters and the spawning issues would be a little bit leveled out if everybody was a little bit slower and just there were a significantly higher number of Arc on the actual map. Do you think that would fix it, or?
I think that would be required. Like, if you were to drop the amount of players in, they would be moving through the map a little too fast. And for the map being as small as it is, that's not acceptable in terms of a pacing issue. I think we definitely would need more Arc, but we need more specific kind of Arc. I think you can be more creative, because as of right now, more of the Arc that we currently have, it's just fodder. At that point, it's not going to be something that's going to slow you down too much, but like, it'll slow you down. But I think if you're just going to spam shredders, yeah, okay, that's going to slow you down a bit, but it's also kind of like not as engaging. But imagine if you had like a shredder, right, and then you had another shredder chassis, but instead of having to get close to you, it can have a turn on it, right? So now at that point, it's not trying to get close to you; it's just trying to create angles, right? And so if you paired them both up in a room, that's a real challenge. That's actually becomes a challenge. And then more importantly, you can have a shredder that does that, but also carries like 2 ticks on it, right? And so the ticks become an issue when you're being distracted by something bigger. And so, and more importantly, again, back to the door issue, like if you can just close doors on these things, it's not really that big of an issue. You can kind of open the door, shoot some shots, close the door, you you kind of work your way through it, slowing you down a little bit, but that becomes an easy, cheesable way of kind of getting around it. If we had some kind of arc that could potentially, Jurassic Park Raptor that sucker and just kind of like boop and be like, oh crap, I'm suddenly door jams become all the rage again.
Yeah.
And then they come up with the arc that can break that too.
Yeah, right. I almost feel like with the arc, the main thing that I do like the idea of it, especially with them being able to interact with the world, that's cool. That would freak me out. I kind of feel like with the arc, the main thing that I would want is just the same arc but beefier. I kind of want like a tick and then one that's huge, one that's really buff,
Right.
a fireball and then a fireball burner with a shield, just to kind of change it up a little bit and have them have like different weak spots or something.
For sure.
But I like
creative.
I like the amount of arc they have.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be too wild. It can just be, like you said, bigger versions of what's currently there,
Yeah.
or just different variants. Like instead of a shredder with a shotgun that goes everywhere, shredder with like a turret, or even a flamethrower, or heck, one that just exudes gas everywhere. Just something that makes the player have to make that, like we talked about, I think a while ago, that solve that puzzle as opposed to just like shoot it some more.
Yeah.
I think that would definitely be better for Stella Montis in particular, but just in general for the game itself. Like I'm excited for the day when we start seeing shredders in other maps, because it's like there's certain areas where you put them in, it's going to be real issues. There's going to be some real issues, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I also think another thing that kind of it feels a little bit weird are the new mine deadline. Is that what they're called? The deadline mines?
Yes.
Are they like way too strong, or am I being crazy? I mean, you can buy them from the trader as well. Maybe is another thing and I got a bunch of them doing the event, so maybe that's making it feel a little bit weird. But man, taking down a Bastion and Bombardiers right in one go seems pretty intense to me.
Yeah,
they are satisfying, but
they're satisfying. They take a little long to play. They take longer to place down than most mines do. So I feel like that's the trade-off in terms of like that, and also not instantaneous. So it's like, and you also have to get out of the blast radius. So I feel like it's interesting.
It's a bit more of a setup.
Yeah.
A bit more of a setup with the deadline.
Yeah.
And Bombardiers, Bastions, Rocketeers, all of these eventually do become trivial, even with not rocking in with a tier 4 hull cracker. Even just one wolf pack and a heavy grenade, you're gonna walk out with an easy Bombardier kill. So I think the deadline kind of fits in decent. It's also massively dangerous to yourself. Like you're saying, you got to get the hell out of there.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I have killed myself once or twice with it for sure. So
Right. Speaking of that, now Fringe, we got 3 new mines, effectively, right? We got 3 new mines, it brought into the ecosystem in terms of utility, right? And I already kind of think mines were a bit strong, in my opinion, in terms of what they can do and how fast you can put them down. So having these additional mines, I feel like it's just way too easy to have a consistent like array of mines that slow the pacing of the game down considerably, and probably not in a healthy way either. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I like the trapster style. I'm not gonna lie. I can get down with a little bit of the traps. There was a situation we were in the other day where I had a guy dead to rights behind a wall. While I was putting on a last little bit of healing before I pushed him, he must have been laying down 3 explosive mines. I pushed around the wall he was on, and boom, we're dead. He turns the tide of that fight because he's a little trapster, a little tricky guy. I like that, and now that you're bringing it up too, because when you brought up the mines, I'm like, no real use case for those. But actually, you put up a shock mine next to a gas mine, you're stunning them. Now they're out of stamina, and then who knows what you're gonna lead them into next? I could see that getting a little bit interesting for sure, especially in a map like Stella Montis. You may have just unlocked a version of the old man that people are not ready for.
Right. And that's kind of my point. The reason I like traps as well. I think they have a lot of good use cases, but I do see the argumentation for it in terms of people saying that third person peeking in terms of close quarters fights. Like, this doesn't really matter for the majority of the matches that I've played in, because it's just you have enough room to maneuver and make those maneuvers. The fight end up being aggro, right? In theory, I understand why some people might say third person peeking makes the game slower. In practice, doesn't happen in Arc Raiders for the most part, because people just maneuver. The maps are built a certain kind of way. However, in certain buildings, especially in Stella Montis, when you saw a lot more choke points, those mines further make that a bigger case that you have to worry about. And so I'm just kind of curious to see if we're going to see a nerf at some point, because maybe he couldn't have put down 3 mines. He can only have put down 1, which is still perfectly valid, still perfectly good to put down. But like in terms of how fast you can put them down from how far to like it just, I feel like there's a little bit of, I don't mean to have, we don't have need less of them, but it's more of like maybe they should be put down, take a little longer to take effect, a little longer to put down to still remain as relevant as they are in terms of when they are triggered. That's just kind of my take on that. Any pushback, anybody?
I don't know if I would want those changes necessarily. I would like to see, is there a device or a skill or ability that lets you kind of see traps from farther out?
There's an ability
anything
in the
right now?
survivor tree that allows you to disarm traps, but
Yeah.
it's all the way at the end on
Right.
the right
And
side
that's
next to security
questionable as
breach.
hell because you have to
And
get
you
right
still
up
have
on
to
it.
be
Yeah,
right
you
next
want to
to
get
them.
right up next
Yeah.
to that thing. Yeah, you got to trust that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like maybe a grenade or something that you could like kind of like the tagging grenade, but it would like sense or something to just like check areas. I don't know. I do really like the traps, and I have been caught by a ton of jolt mines with some really
Mhm.
great ambushes.
Right, and the thing is, I like them. Like especially if you're running solo, I like to go into an area, trap up all the entry points, and then just start looting everything. Right, like it just makes for a certain play style, it makes it more valid. It's just more of like I feel like it's too easy to use in an active combat situation. That
Yeah,
makes
you're
any
right.
sense.
You do throw them down really quickly. Yeah,
Right.
I guess that's fair.
So
Yeah.
like I have no problem setting up this whole web of traps, but it takes a while to do, and fine, you do it right. Uh, 2 of my favorite so far has been the what's not the jolt mine, it's the one that like knocks you back and knocks you down. I forget what it's called,
Mine, I
but
think.
huh?
Pulse? Is it the
Pulse mine,
pulse
that's what it is.
mine? Yeah,
I
okay.
like using a pulse mine at the top of a very tall zip line.
You're a monster.
Right, I like using that one because that's a lethal mine now. And then there's the other one where again at the top of a zip line, I'll have a blaze grenade trap, so it's not avoidable. They come right up with a gas mine right below that. So as soon as they come up, blaze grenade, gas. They have no stamina. They're burning to death. And so again, you can do this, and you can get really creative and tricky with it. It's just more of I've seen it being used a little too freely on while you're essentially getting shot at or around the corner or something like that. It's just a little too quick. But maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? If you're listening right now, if you think I'm wrong, just leave it in the comments. It's all right. Make a case. I'm not afraid of the conversation. And the Matriarch, that was an interesting add-on. Everyone was kind of thinking, king, this, that, and the other. No, we got a Matriarch, right? And name otherwise. How's been your guys' experience fighting against the Matriarch at this point? Comparison to the Queen or anything like that? But like, Jake, what's your feels on it?
I've only fought it twice. Only killed it once, but I came in at the very back end of the battle. I do like it has like a gas grenade situation and these kind of like homing missiles or
Yeah.
something.
It also
I
spawns.
feel like it was it spawn?
It also spawns higher tier arcs like
Mm.
Bastions, Leapers, Rocketeers. It spawns them too.
I feel like I need more experience to say in terms of combat. I do think visually it's a great addition though, and I love the bug aesthetic on so many of these big walker types, and it looks great. But I think I need to do a few more runs with it to see if it's too frustrating or dynamic enough challenge.
Okay. Fringe, what about yourself?
For me personally, man, I really like the Matriarch. I think it's creative. I like the difficulty of it. The thing that I like the most about this game though is you're not tied down to one specific way of taking down any sort of thing. We've been diving into the Matriarch solo, literally running in there with no weapons and a hammer.
Hmm.
Jumping on top of this thing, beating it down with a hammer. And the last time we did that, we walked out of there with a Matriarch core, and it did get taken down. Now, granted, it's in a solo lobby. Everybody's firing at the thing. We do end up getting defibbed by a lone hero on the solo lobbies. But just the fact that I can mantle onto this thing in certain circumstances and beat it down with my hammer and it's giving me arc damage, I absolutely love that. You know, the last thing I want in my games is to be tied down to a specific way in playing. And kind of tying back to the cred that you get, this is something that Arc Raiders I think does perfectly. Typically in like Apex Legends, the daily challenges will be like, do X amount of damage with Gibraltar, which is a character that if I don't play, why would I do that challenge? Now I'm forced to play it. They don't force you to do anything in this game. It is completely open. I'm absolutely loving the Matriarch. Huge fan.
For me, I like it a lot because I actually like it aesthetically probably more than the Queen, because it feels like it moves better, right? Because it's not as small, right? It's a little bigger. I think it has less legs, but I'm not sure. But like it feels it can really, traverse terrain really, really well, and like it looks and feels like it could happen. Like it doesn't look janky. It doesn't look like it's just a bot. I'm kind of hovering on things. It looks like it's really just maneuvering through the terrain. It looks really well done. It's crisp. I like the fighting abilities that it has. Like the Queen seems like a very straightforward attack robot. It has the laser beams. It's got some mortars to throw into it, and it's got the the fully automatic laser type stuff. Like it's a very direct fire weapon type bot. Whereas the Matrix has the invulnerable shield. It spawns bigger bots. It has the homing missiles. It has gas grenades. Supposedly it has flashbangs too, but I can't confirm that. Someone said they got flashed or something like that. I don't know what's going on there, but I think like more of that, please. Like more of a more dynamic robot experience where they're not just kind of like, I have my one attack, I'm going to repeat my one attack, so you can just memorize the pattern and go from there. Whereas the Matriarch kind of gives you a little bit of everything, and a lot of times what's really missing is also honestly more robots, right? A Queen would be significantly more dangerous if it just spawned stuff with it too. They'd launch a bunch of wasps, call it a day, or a bunch of hornets, or something, or even better, just like launch like I don't know, 4 or 5 snitches, and then everyone's instantly trying to knock out those stitches before they start calling things down, and it becomes a real headache from there. But I feel like more of that, please. So I'm looking forward to what they're doing in the future with the bigger robot challenges. It's like, hey, more of that. All right, so we got that, and so a couple of things in terms of not so much changes, but we kind of had a chance to bite into them, are the trials and expeditions, these kind of mechanics, right? So let's start with trials real quick here. If I had to, summarize how trials work in this game to someone who doesn't understand, I feel like they're a conglomeration. They're like this mashup of like this typical daily or weekly quest that's mashed in with like a leaderboard type thing. And what are your guys' take on that? What's your guys' experience so far in the trials? Jake?
I love that it's 100 people. Is that right for the leaderboard? And then if you're in like a certain top percentage, that's what bounces you up because it feels attainable. If you're against 100 people, it seems like something that's you can actually climb if you want to. Whereas if it's a leaderboard with everybody in that rank kind of thing, or you start to see some really big. You're in the thousands or tens of thousands of numbers. It's something that you're less likely to engage with. So I really like that. It's a smaller pool of people, at least that they're visually showing to me. And I do think that it does a great job of like filling in the daily tasks, like older Call of Duty, like, oh, I'm getting on doing my daily missions, as opposed to like the feats, which like Fringe and I were talking about earlier, kind of something that you can kind of do casually or just, oh, if you're around, this kind of pop up as you play the game. I do like that, especially after you've got all the upgrades and you finish all the quests and you've already done with all your expedition resources. I do like that it's still giving you a very like clear, direct path that you can follow week to week with new goals, activities, and make number go up. I feel like is satisfying in multiplayer game, especially in a game like this, where like what you're talking about, it's like already there are elements that as you get used to the PvE encounters, maybe those aren't something that you're super excited about engaging with every single day, or if you're not playing with friends or something. So to have a goal that is consistent, changing, and constantly kind of giving you that reset so you can go back out and try to grind it out, I think is a lot of fun. And it's not like I said, not overwhelming, which I think is an important thing for a game over a long term. Like it sucks when stuff turns into like a hardcore grind every
Right.
week.
So are you familiar with how they sort how you what puts you into that 100-player group?
I don't know exactly how they choose. I do know like if you're in like is it the top 30 or top 20 or
All right.
something, you can go up 1 or 2 ranks or something.
So
I
I
don't
mean,
know exactly how it
no, in terms
works.
of like what they use to create that 100-person group to begin with,
Mm,
right? Because I'm familiar. I just
no.
want to know if you're familiar. All
No.
right. It has to do with when you attain your first star, right? When you attain your first
Okay.
star, everybody else within 100 with 100 people or so in your region, right, who attains their first
Mhm.
star around the same time, you basically all get grouped together, right?
Gotcha.
Which to me feels super arbitrary, right? I we were talking about this in our Discord a little bit. We have it depends on when you start. So it could be like for me in my group, I only needed like 13,000, 14,000 to be top 20, whereas him
Mhm.
he needed minimum 50,000 to get that point. And so it felt really like unfair, right? In terms of like, hey, what's going on here, right? And it feels weird because it feels like a ranking system that not actually functioning like a ranking system. And so it feels like a mismatch. I hope this gets reworked a little bit, personally, because I feel like it's the way they're doing it. It feels very arbitrary, right? And there's no system that's gonna be 100% fair, but this feels probably the least fair of them all. Um, then
I
in my
guess
opinion.
I'm not really approaching it as like I'm trying to climb the ranks. I do understand that the higher ranks are giving like better tier rewards and stuff, so I get that being a goal. So I do see what you're saying. It could be frustrating if kind of what you have to do to progress to the rank that somebody else has to do to progress to that same rank is different.
Mhm.
I guess I just like the scale of it. Just as
Right.
like casual, like
I
I'm
mean,
not
I'm the
trying to
same way, right?
equal whatever.
I only do it for the 3 stars of every single thing, just to get just
Hmm.
pragmatic rewards out of it, right? If
Yeah.
the function of if the actual task itself is um I find to be unfun, I just won't do it, right? It's not worth
Yeah.
the hassle for me at that point. But I feel like if you are, because if someone did the math, if you don't jump up rank multiple times every week,
Hmm.
by the time you get to the end of it, you can't get to the end of it. So in a sense, you're actually
Hmm.
being prevented from getting to that top level because of just purely arbitrary, brackets. And so if I hope they're getting some information off of that, and they're kind of this is a lot of data gathering that they're doing right now. I hope they're kind of like be able to better refine this system because I feel like it has potential. What about you, Fringe? What do you make of all this?
I've only ever completed a trial by complete and total accident. We got 3 stars on a trial one time. Fantastic,
Which
but
one
that
was
was
it?
the only time. I have no idea. I don't know. I can't name any of these trials. I don't know how the
Okay.
system works, so, my take on this is kind of irrelevant. I think what Jake said, it gives you that thing to grind for after. Sometimes in the chat on stream, people are like, "I've got everything. I'm max level. I've got the expedition done." And it's like, okay, that gives you something extra if you want to push that extra mile.
Hmm.
But realistically, that's just that kind of ties back into what I was saying earlier with not wanting my gameplay to feel forced. Like I don't go into a raid realistically knowing too much. I got a general idea of what I'm trying to get sometimes, but most of the time we're just writing it. I don't go
Right.
in like, all right, fireballs, prepare yourself. We're coming in hot.
That was a pain in the ass last week, by the way, but
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but yeah, okay. So that's something to be discussed. I think there's some room for improvement. I like the start of it, but I think there's room for improvement. But you did bring up the expedition. How far along are we on our expeditions, boys? Jake?
Not far, and honestly, maybe you can convince me to do it. I think I'm on the second or the third tier.
Mhm.
I did all the base initial stuff. Now I'm giving like light bulbs, maybe or
Right.
something, and whatever that one is. Um, I just I feel like I'm putting enough time in so that I'm gonna be able to get the expedition if I want to, and
Mhm.
I do understand the appeal of more skill points, but something about me just at this point, I'm not wanting to go and collect my blueprints again. I'm not wanting to go back through the quest line just because I'm gonna be like compulsively wanting to
Right.
complete everything or to get the Hall Cracker blueprint
Mhm.
realistically. Um, So I don't know. I feel like it would have to be something extreme, and I don't know if they haven't given specifics in terms of like you're going to get this exact number of skill points yet, right? Like
Right.
I don't think that's it
There's
would have to be something like maybe 10 to 15 skill points is what I'm thinking right now, and I don't think that that's
I think five's on the
realistic.
table.
Five's on well maybe
Mm.
five's good.
You
I
know that
do
doesn't do it for you.
I didn't do it for me.
yeah, I
You
don't
know that doesn't do it for you.
Here's the thing.
Wait,
I think
what?
you touched on this. I think you touched on this, right? Like, I'm doing the expedition because it's a time filler, right? Once you
Yeah,
get to the end, the last section is actually really easy because you're no longer looking for specific items. You're just looking for items. Like, I'm just donate
it's
this
just
item,
value, right?
right? It's just value.
Yeah.
That's all it is, right? And I definitely have to put together a video of like a post op in terms of like, because I've already made videos about, I put plenty of videos about wipes and economic concerns and how they manage that. Um, and I'm interested. It's interesting to see. I'm interested in seeing how this plays out in terms of an actual economic reset or economic balancing. Right. I don't see it doing the job. To be perfectly honest. Um, for starters, you just outlined right now the biggest pain point for wiping is blueprints. Right. It's a pain in the behind. Now I'm like 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in. All right, and I've gathered a decent amount already, and I'm slowly starting to get to the point where I'm starting to flesh that out. But like, there are people with tons of extra, and this is also kind of a trading thing as well. People are trading their blueprints,
Hmm.
and I understand the reasoning behind it. Right, I've always been on the fence about how to go about doing that. I've always kind of stated that the blueprint system seemed like it was a way to prevent people from muscling their way to just unlocking everything, right? But the very people who are going to muscle their way along like everything aren't doing that anyways. They're just because they have generally more access. They're more knowledgeable on how to go about trading them, and so they're going to go through it fast anyways, right? So I don't think it really stops the very people that you're trying to like stop from muscling through, right?
Yeah.
And so it becomes a pain point. Supposedly, one big streamer has an alt account where he's basically putting all of his spare BPs um to then as soon as he wipes, just boot all the BPs back, right?
Huh.
And I'm sure there's a way around that. It's easy to be cool. You can't bring the blueprint into raid anymore. It's an easy thing to patch, but that removes the aspect of trading, which is kind of a good
Yeah.
social thing about it as well. And so right now, I don't see a lot of motivation to wipe. Bear in mind though, we still have many weeks before that becomes an option. So
Yeah.
who knows? I'm probably going to do it anyways, to be perfectly honest, because I'll have nothing better to do. Right?
Yeah.
Let's just be
Right.
facts are
Why
facts.
not
That's what
try
they
it?
are. Right? Facts are facts. Right? I play the game more than the average player. Right? And so there's going to be a certain point where I just want to do it, so I'm not bored. Um, and I got to break this down a lot more. I feel like this its own topic can be broken down quite a bit. But in terms of the expedition, I find it interesting. I find it as a fun mechanic. Number go up. It's interesting, kind of like an additional quest. Campaign to go through. And with that in mind, I know you made a really great video about the quests in Arc Raiders.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind kind of summing that up for our audience right now, I highly recommend you guys watch it, by the way. Can you just kind of sum it up in terms so we can kind of have a basis for the next part of the conversation?
Yeah, well, so a part of the video is bias. I'm a nerd, so I like science fiction. I like stories, I like narratives and games, and so kind of like something I'm really looking for is trying to unlock the world, which I think Arc does a really good job in like environmental storytelling and having like a larger world that you get to explore and kind of putting pieces together. But I kind of expected a little bit more narrative content when it came specifically to the quests. And I think the thing that made it sting when we didn't get a lot of great character progression or a larger overarching storyline throughout the quests was that they also didn't offer progress via experience or items of very valuable. So basically in the video I'm just talking about how I don't feel like the quests are rewarding. They're kind of disappointing to me on
Mhm.
those two facets. You're
Right.
not getting any like legitimate, innate skills or abilities from the quest because you're not getting experience. The items that you're getting are very low value. Like even the later in quest, there's
Yeah.
66 quests in the game now after Stella Montis. They're giving you like $1,000, which is not enough to buy anything. And it's spattered throughout it. There's like 5 blueprints that I think are valuable. So I would like to see in the future when they do quests for additional larger content drops or the beginning of season if they made those a little bit more rewarding or a little more engaged. And I was very excited when I loaded into Stella Montis and the new quest popped up, and the very first quest was from Lance, and he's like, "Hey, I heard there's other robots," which from the
In my own image.
narrative
I love
side
the
of
name
it,
of that. I was like, in my own image. I was
yeah,
like, that was good.
yeah,
That was good. I like that.
it's and it makes you think, okay, well, now we're kind of, if you read through the codex entry on Lance, he's an enigma to everyone there. They kind of have you going to Buried City to look at the pharmacist's office, and like he kind of is investigating where he fits into this society. But unfortunately, I was thinking, because we had, around 60 quests for the first initial 4 maps, maybe it would be 10 to 15 for the new map, but it was just those 3, and after that quest, it doesn't get explored. So I do think it's something that they're going to adjust, like with everything, as they kind of move forward. But yeah, I would love to see stronger story stuff happening inside of the quest, and then also some better rewards, I think, going forward. And that is something that I think would push me to do the expeditions, especially because you can't rewatch the cutscenes right now in the codex, as far as I'm aware. So I am the type of person to be like, okay, I want to experience again if it was something a little bit more,
Right. It was meaningful.
meaty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I completely get that. And it's funny because I didn't realize you weren't getting XP for quests until pretty late into it. And it's funny because the moment I found that out, I stopped doing quests. The moment I found that out. What about you, Fringe? That you kind of felt the same way?
Yeah. When it comes to expeditions, I'm at 0 tier. I'm not convinced. I'm glad to hear that you guys aren't thinking about doing it either. But like you said, we got weeks to go. I thought I was going to be the outcast there, but I'm currently not sold on that. And questing's a big part of it because I don't like doing quests. But for some reason, kind of the OCD in me wants to finish out all of the quest line.
Yeah.
But if by the time I finish out the 66 quests, they drop 15 more, will we ever hit a point in time where I have all the quests done? Especially because, like you're talking about, somebody in my chat pointed out, like, if you don't like doing the quests, you actually don't have to do them. And changed my life. I haven't done a quest since. So
right. And I think that's kind of a problem, to be perfectly honest. I understand that you're coming at this from a perspective of you're not being tied down to a certain way of playing. And I respect that, and that's kind of part of that too, because like because you don't have to, right? If you don't like doing quests, you don't have to do quests. So that is a huge upside to them not giving XP, right? So I have to give Devil's due. That's a strong argument for not giving XP for quests. But is that really what you want out of your game? Is that the main storyline mechanism that you're using to feed players into not just story, but also to like maneuver them around the map in ways that they normally wouldn't be? Otherwise, you're just kind of funneling towards loot zones and that's it, right? It's giving you opportunities to explore the maps in ways that you normally wouldn't. I feel like that's valuable too, right? And there's not enough carrot to make people do that, in my opinion. And so without the XP, without valid rewards, it's like, I feel like maybe there's a way you can maybe shoehorn some more blueprints in there as a carrot, just kind of like, hey, there's certain blueprints that you can only get or you're guaranteed to get if you go down. This comes back to factions. Like, hey, you go to traders. If I want to go to Lance, I want to eventually get blueprints or things for medical stuff. If I go into, I honestly don't know anybody else's name, to be honest. But if you go to the grenade or the grenade guy, like, cool, I want blueprints for grenades and things like that. Like things of that nature where it's like it makes sense. I want to focus on this trader or I want to focus on that trader in terms of quests. I feel like that would probably be a good thing to explore in terms of design. What do you think?
Something like even in the shops being like, you can't buy the deadline mine or you can't buy the hull cracker until you complete X quest.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be incentive enough, because you're dead on in saying that the quests give you something to do. Now, as much as I don't like my gameplay being forced, going in there with an objective is less forced and is more so just what I'm trying to do on the side, and then what we get into is what we get into.
Right.
So I liked the quests until you realize no experience, no rewards. Why am I beating my head against a stick trying to find this obscure item on this weird description of where it's even at? But there's plenty of different things that they can do, and hopefully that's another one of the maybe silent behind the scenes tests that they put out and start to tweak on.
Maybe. Now, Fringe did say something. I want to get your take on this, Jake. He pointed out in terms of like unlocking things in the shop. What if instead of blueprints, you unlock the ability to buy certain weapons or certain things from those traders at obviously a very reduced count in terms of like yeah, you can't print them like money, but like you can maybe buy at max level from the gun shop. You can buy, I don't know, like a Tempest once every 2 or 3 days or something like that, right? Just you unlock the ability to do that, even though you don't have the blueprint. You can at least get access to this weapon because you've done all the quests, you've done all the campaigns, right? Obviously, you probably need to be a lot higher than it is now, but like something along that nature in terms of maybe not XP, but you get something at the end of the rainbow, right?
Yeah, that's like a Tarkov, like a reputation system. Like if I've been through, this entire quest line, I helped Tian Wen, meet with Celeste, and they bonded over the fact that they both lost people in the battle at Victory Ridge. I would like if, maybe every week she goes, "Hey, I'm looking out for you. I remember what you did or how you helped me." Yeah, I think that'd be a good fix. I also think, and this might be, you guys can tell me, this might be a broken idea. I also think another solution to the blueprint situation could be like if you have, let's say you never find the blueprint for an Osprey, but if you bring 15 Ospreys to Apollo, he can like reverse engineer it or something and give you one, just to maybe give casual long-term players a different route to like something that is kind of like random in the sense that it's not guaranteed to spawn every map. There are places you can go, but obviously you're farming the blueprints. It could be a blind spot for me, and maybe there are like strategies where people are like farming blueprints really easily, and that's just something you have to focus on for a little bit. But I think that could be another solution to make people feel a little bit more comfortable about leaving behind their blueprints one day.
No, I actually really like that a lot because I was trying to get the Tempest schematic for so long. We finally got it last night on stream. I was trying to get it for so long.
Nice.
But we had like 4 or 5 Tempests that we had taken off of people's bodies from in raid and or out of a chest, let's say. I would have gladly traded those in for a Tempest schematic, and that would give reason to pulling items out of raid rather than just leaving them on bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
You can take this a step further rather than giving them to Apollo for like, just you can do research. You got cool. I'm gonna hand them for research, which means you get absolutely nothing in return for it. You don't get parts, you don't get money, you don't because you're not selling it to him. You're literally here. Cool. Here's free research. So you get nothing until you're actually done with that research. So it could be another like number goes higher, expedition type stuff or things of that nature. And who knows? Maybe you can go a little further in that, give a little bit more, more variety or more option rather. So you can donate, like say weapons. In the case of weapons for when you donate a bunch of weapons, right? And it doesn't have to necessarily be a specific weapon. It can be because some of them are just worth more than others. You can be like, cool, I'm turning these weapons in. It's kind of like an expedition, but you turn these weapons in, and they have different varying values, right? And at that point, she goes, cool, I'm gonna go ahead and do some research, and maybe I'll put something together for you. Puts together like a blueprint, or even maybe like a partial blueprint. Cool, you get that one more item. Cool, I keep doing that. So it's kind of like not necessarily like a loot box type thing, but it's more like you're not guaranteed. But it's just one more mechanism that you can try to maybe force your luck a little bit. And so that kind of still retains the spirit of what the blueprint system is supposed to be, but a little bit more leeway. Just a little bit more leeway in terms of that.
It would also function as a pretty decent item sink as well.
Yeah, I think that's a whole other topic as well. And unfortunately, I think we're basically about at our time limit at this point, boys.
Next time.
The game's not going anywhere, so we'll have plenty of time to talk about this. For those of you who are listening right now, please leave your thoughts and comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this, the actual talk we've had today. I want to thank the people that showed up here today in my panel. Jake from JaketheAlright, Fringe from Fringe Patriot Gaming. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Jake, any new content coming down the pipe for you?
Yeah, some videos, mostly talking about science fiction, narrative, lore stuff. I'm doing a Stella Montis video, but just vibing.
There you go, man. If you nerds want to check that out, y'all can go ahead and check that out. I'm just kidding. I look forward to it.
Absolutely.
What about you, Fringe? Still doing the streaming thing all day, every day?
Yes, we're still 6 days a week over here streaming. We are currently actually working on a video, putting together the video showcasing us hammering down the Matriarch with ease. No problem whatsoever hammering down the Matriarch, trust me. That'll be out probably sometime after this podcast comes out, fingers crossed. Obviously, it's coming out tomorrow. This is recorded the day before.
There you go.
You can maybe cut that out. You don't want to let them behind the scenes.
Don't let them behind the scenes. Oh, too late now. Too late. We're live. You just didn't know.
Oh god.
There you go. For myself, I'm gonna be putting out a video that, this video here that we're making right now, but also how to wage the art of the deal in your proxy chat in game, how we can leverage that. So we'll have some fun with that one, guys. All right, guys. I want to thank you everybody for being here, everyone for watching, and have a good one, guys.